All right, g'day everyone. My name's Leigh, and today I have the Atem Mini Pro ISO, and I just wanted to go through my first impressions. I haven't had it very long. I just got it today. I've unboxed it, and I've got it up and running. It did take me a few hours to get to the point where I was up and running. It wasn't just quite as sort of plug and play as what I'd hoped for, but I am up and running now. I've got everything sort of working that I need right now, and then I'm going to get into the advanced stuff later, but as I learn what to do. But for now, I just thought I'd share what my first impressions, like getting it out, what to look for, what I thought, how I'm plugging it in, the process of getting it up and running and all that stuff, and just let you know what I thought. So the very first thing was obviously in the box was the Atem. If I just, I've got three devices all up plugged into it, and those three, I have the camera that I'm talking to here. I've got my Blackmagic camera that's pointing at the Atem Mini Pro at the moment, and I also have a camera source. So, and obviously, as you can see, I've got a picture in. If I just click this on and off, I've got a picture-in-picture. Down the bottom as well. That's what I've got going so far. So that's what I've got plugged in. I've also got my audio running into the audio input 1 via a wireless Go. So it's a Rode VideoMic Pro plugged into a wireless Go, which is running into the Atem Mini. And I've had to delay the audio slightly to sync it up with the video, because video has a slight delay on the HDMI. And that's what I've done in order to get going. And I've got it networked, and I've also got a Samsung T5 hard drive plugged in via USB-C, which is what I'm recording to right now. So I'm trying recording the show out here as we go. So that's the setup. So my first initial thoughts when I opened the box were no USB-C cable. And I was like, there's a power cord, there's a couple of adapter plugs to change the power cord from Australia to American, plug ends, and there's the Atem Mini and a couple of bits of paper, and that's it. No cables other than that whatsoever. So you get the power cable, you get the actual device, and that's it. And luckily I had a USB-C, otherwise I literally wouldn't have been able to do anything with it at all out of the box, because you need the USB-C one to set up the Ethernet side of it. Luckily had a USB-C cable, and that wasn't an issue. But if you are thinking about buying one of these, make sure you grab a USB-C cable if you don't already have one, because if you don't, you can't set it up. It's a pain in the butt. So I was, for the price, it's an amazing unit for the price, but for the price I would have thought that the Blackmagic would have put a USB-C cable in. It seems a little, I was like the Ethernet cables and the HDMIs, I can understand that, but come on, a USB-C cable that's this long really wouldn't have broke the bank, I would have thought, too much. So I unboxed it, got it out, plugged it in, and for me, I downloaded the software, which doesn't come on a card anymore. Which I think is quite cool. They used to put an SD card in, and then by the time you got your hardware, it was already updated, and at the end of the day, you just download it off the internet anyway. So it's sort of a waste of an SD card. So I like that they've moved away from that, and I downloaded the software. That was easy, and it failed to update the unit, and I had some troubles. I couldn't connect it to OBS via the USB-C cable and get anything happening into OBS. I couldn't connect it via Ethernet. I couldn't change any of the settings, and I started reading around on forums, and I'm like, and it didn't matter. I turned it off, turned it back on, unplugged things, tried different cables, went through all the troubleshooting stuff that was mentioned online, and what I ended up doing, which got me working again, was actually uninstalling the software. I downloaded it again and reinstalled it, and voila, it worked, and I was back up and running. So I got to be able to change my settings. So as I mentioned before, you need to plug the USB-C cable in order to be able to change your Ethernet settings. So I wanted to be able to control it by the Ethernet, which gives you then the ability to be able to record via USB-C. If you don't set your Ethernet up, you can't control it from your computer and adjust things in your computer with the software whilst recording, because obviously the USB-C port's taken up either by the drive or by getting it to talk to your computer. So that was a bit of an issue to start with, and I was just like, and I'm reading forums and people are going, oh, mine got bricked, and I had to send it back, and I was like, oh no, here we go. And luckily, uninstalling the Atem software control and reinstalling it again worked for me. So hopefully, trick for you that may do the trick for you. Anyway, so I'm up and running. I've managed to get it to talk to OBS, so if I want to do some streaming, I can do that via USB-C and bring it up just as basically just as a camera in the camera setting, in the video capture device in OBS, the way I've got it set up at the moment is via Ethernet, and I have my Samsung plugged in to the back of the device in the USB-C so that I can record, because obviously I want to try the ISO recording thing as well, which I can tell you is absolutely insanely good. And the first test I did of this earlier on, to just be able to literally click on a DaVinci Resolve project folder and just bam, open it up, and all the edits and all the cuts that you've made. So every time you touch one of these, it will actually put that cut and it will put that fade into Resolve project with your video there, which is absolutely awesome. All your audio goes in, everything's just there ready to go, half the work's done, and you can just do some minor tweaks, and you can move the cuts wherever you want and change the fades and color grade if you want to color grade, and so on and so on, and then off you go from there. And that side of it is absolutely magic, and I'm really, really impressed by that. So the couple of things that I'm not super impressed by just straight off the bat. So the first one, and I've heard a lot of people probably, feeling the same way about this, and that is there's no headphone jack on it, and it really, really sucks. The fact that you've got, and I'll show you the software right now, and you'll just have to forgive me for a second. Here's the software control box. And if we go down to our audio here, they've given us some really, really cool little tools in this audio. And I'll just bring me back up as well so you can see me. And those tools are, they've given us a really nice little EQ, so you can EQ your microphone in there, which is really, really cool, and it works really well. And they've given us a compressor. There's your compressor, and there's a limiter and an expander and a gate. And those tools are for, like, I come from an audio background, and I've been an audio engineer for many, many years, and these tools are go-tos when it comes to tidying up the audio. Now, that's great, but if you can't hear what it is that you're doing to the audio, then what's the bloody use of having them in the first place? So there's two mic inputs, and one of those could have been a headphone. Like, really, it should have been a headphone jack. You could plug one microphone in. You can plug there's 4 cameras that you've got, and each one of them could have a microphone plugged into them. So there's no shortage of places to plug in another microphone. You can have a total on this with 4 HDMI ports, 4 different cameras. You could have 4 microphones plus the 2 other. There's 6 microphones. It's just like 6 microphones and then no headphones. Like, what were you thinking? It's just stupid. Now, I got super, super lucky. I'll come back to me again. I got like super, super lucky. I've got this little, I don't know if you can see it down here, but this is my little FeelWorld 4K monitor, which I assumed had absolutely no headphones with it as well. And I'm monitoring, if you can see, I don't know if you can see it, and I haven't got a camera set up so you can, but you can go between the program, which is what you guys would be seeing if it went live, or you can go through and have a look at the multi-view, and you can see, all your different cameras and what's recording and all the audio levels and stuff like that, which is really, really cool. And luckily for me, this had and I had no idea. I just found it literally because of this thing. But there's a headphone jack at the bottom of the unit. That was just like, I've just got lucky, really. And so you can monitor the headphones through any HDMI. So if you've got a TV, you could listen to it through the TV. But, you know, the fact that there's not a headphone jack on this is just... I can't believe they'd leave that out. Like, of all the things, you know, you need video, visuals, and you need sound. They're the two things that anyone cares about when they're watching any video. It's sound and visuals. Why would you not put headphones so we can hear? It's just so silly. Anyway, that's my number one annoyance out of that. The second little gripe that I have, and this isn't a big one, but same thing again, coming from an audio background and using, you know, having used Pro Tools, having used Cubase, having used Logic, you know, all these DAWs that all sort of follow very similar principles. I'm just, for me, and this might not be for everyone because you might be used to this, but for me, I found it really, really unnatural to go to one of these, so rotary knobs here, and I went, if normally in a DAW you would click and you'd push up. Up would make the volume go up because the volume or the knob's turning up, and down would make it turn down. So I click and I drag up and nothing. And I click and I drag down and nothing. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I went, oh, hang on, it's left to right. And it's just really odd to me. I like, to some people might not even care, but for me, it's just that sort of thing that, like, I've years and years and years of up is up and down is down, and now all of a sudden it's left is down and right is up, and it just caught me off guard and did my head in a little bit when I first started. So they're not big. That's not a big one by any means. It's nothing like not having a headphone jack, which is just like, what? But yeah, it is a bit annoying nonetheless. But I am really thankful that they have included those, you know, audio features in there, because it's nice to be able to have a compressor, and I can do that and not have to worry so much about doing stuff to it later, which is really cool. One of the other things that would have been nice, and it's a cool little feature. We'll go back to that again. Sorry, I've cut you off. But if we go to the camera tab on here, obviously, that is one other thing that's kind of cool. Just before we move on, is the audio boxes float, and you can put them anywhere, which I like that too. So I'm all for putting, you know, one thing on one screen, one thing on the other. So it's nice to be able to move that around. Now, with this thing, the controls all control the settings on the camera, and I'm kind of surprised here that they've kind of used different terminology on the app than they have on the actual camera. So, for example, we've got a coarse knob, which I think I haven't checked yet, but I think it turns up like the ISO and up and down in bigger steps. And it's like, why isn't it ISO? It's ISO on everything else, so why would you change it to coarse? So just if Blackmagic, if you're watching, just can we marry the names up so things match? I don't know. I don't understand why we would have gone down different naming structures for different things. Like it just seems a little bit counterintuitive as to why you would do that in particular. Anyway, just one thing that I didn't realise, I was pretty excited about this tab when I saw some other people demoing it, and what I didn't realise was that it's actual camera control. So you're changing the colour of the Blackmagic camera, you're doing the settings for the actual camera, and it works great for my Pocket Cinema 4K. I've got a GH5 as well, which is this camera here that you're looking at, and I can't change the colour palette at all for the GH. So none of those settings of adding colour or changing the lift or the gain to change the shadows, none of that works on that camera. It only works on my Blackmagic camera. So Little, you know, it's not huge. You can get a decent look out of the camera these days and get, you know, rough settings right. And if you're recording, you can color grade after the fact. So it's not going to be an absolutely massive, you know, drawback, but it would have been nice to have been able to have, you know, tweak the lows and the highs of the actual video feed that's going through the camera. That would have been super cool. If they could have done that, I would have been like, oh, awesome, because I can, you know, put a kind of curve on, or, you know, just lighten up my shadows a little bit or whatever, and it just would have been a nice touch to have been able to do done to any camera. But you can only do it to Blackmagic cameras, which is probably the hook to get you to buy all Blackmagic cameras. So I don't know if I can say that they've haven't thought that through, because I reckon they have thought that through, and they're like, yep, you can have those features only if you buy our cameras. All right, so don't get me wrong, I really love this little device. It's absolutely awesome. The recording feature and being able to record and have everything go into a folder and have, you know, all your video separate, the main output of all these changes that you make. So it records one whole video file of everything that you've done in one, if you just want to use that and forget about everything else. But it records all the separate ones, and it records the audio all separately. And then having that DaVinci Resolve project that you can just click on and open up, and everything just opens up in DaVinci, and then bang, off you go, is just absolutely awesome. It's such a huge time saver, and I'm absolutely loving that feature of this right now. So like I said, I've gone through my little gripes. I have so much more to learn, and I've really only just, like I said, I've only got it today. I've opened it, I've had a play, and these were just my first impressions. And I just thought that if you're looking at buying one, that maybe those first impressions might, you know, help you make your choice as to whether you want one or not. I think it's an awesome little device. There are definitely things that it can and can't do. I'm really interested to look at getting into the macro side of it. I've seen a lot of videos on the macros, and basically they just record things that you do. So you go along and you change things on the software, and it records those changes, and then when you click the button, they all play very quickly in one hit. So you can do a whole range of movements in one button stroke, and I haven't really got to that yet because I'm sort of still, you know, learning everything else. So I'm really excited by that though, because obviously that means that, you know, there's things I can think of straight away, like the start of this, for example, like fading to black and fading your microphone in. You could do that at the same time, and the macro would remember it, and you could just hit the macro and it would fade and do those two functions together without you having to do them separately, or turn 3 or 4 things on at once and turn them off at once and things like that. So macros look really powerful. The other thing that I'm very excited to get into is obviously the keyer and the masking and all those bits and pieces that are in it as well. And I haven't even looked at them yet. I've just literally tried to get my setup to work with the different, you know, screens and cameras, and get everything sort of, you know, doing what I want it to do. And I wanted it to record and do this first video and get it out and see how I went. So I will obviously come back at a later date with another video with more, you know, tips and bits and pieces that I pick up along the way. And I'll also probably add to that video how I went with the actual Resolve session after I finished recording this video. So I obviously not going to be able to include that in this video, but I'll do that one in a later video and let you know how that side of it went as well. Yeah, hope you enjoyed this little video. Like I said, I don't know much else about it just yet, so I'm going to zip it and, you know, do some more playing, learn how to use it, find out as much as I can, and I will come back to you with some more videos on it. But I just really thought it was it'd be handy if I, you know, just sort of showed you what I thought when I first got the device and my initial settings up and how it all went. And it took me probably about for me, it took a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours, to sort of get to a point where I was like, oh, okay, I've got everything working now the way I want it, you know, the things that I've seen, the videos I've watched, and I've got everything sort of happening, and yeah, off and running. So I haven't tried streaming yet, obviously. So the first thing I thought was, let's record first, take it from there, and then, yeah, we'll keep learning. So anyway, take it easy, you know, It's pretty simple. Don't be a dick. All right, later. Oh yeah, check this out.